Welcome to the Aud'acieuse podcast. Today I'm with storyteller Ted Bun. So how did you give up smoking?
Drugs.
Oh, you gave them up with drugs? Yeah. Or it was because of the drugs you were taking when you were smoking?
I was actually, there's a drug that I produced. It was a mild antidepressant originally, but it didn't work as an antidepressant. So they discovered it actually suppressed urges for addiction in general. Smoking was the most obvious one, so I got into it early and did a week where you carried on smoking and taking the tablets. Then the tablets are supposed to last 6 weeks after that. By the time I got to the end of week 4, I was forgetting to take the tablets and forgetting about smoking as well. Even though in the week before I gave up smoking, I went through 200 because we'd just been to France and bought duty-frees.
Yeah, we just bought 60 packets in Spain the other week, or the last month. Enough for 4 or 5 months or whatever it is. And never quite sure, but I've got to give up because, well, I've just had a clear cardiologue thing for my heart. So I'm like, and we've been cutting down on whatever else.
Looking to Ted Bun. What's the question?
Well, this is quite first question. Or we can get writing.
Yeah.
Or storytelling, I think, if I remember rightly.
I call myself a storyteller rather than a writer because I am dyslexic and cannot write apart from with the aid of a computer.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So right. I tell stories. And then I write them down as best I can, and the computer sorts out my grammar and spellings and turns it into something that's legible, which then gets proofread and published.
Why did you choose the hardest, as you're dyslexic, it's the hardest thing to do, is to write or to read?
To write it down is the bit that I struggle with. I mean, I've taught myself to read, and I read copiously, but I could never spell, I could never arrange letters in the right order. Even now, I have to say I before E except after C every time I try to write the word field.
I do that, and I do it with, is it there? And I get it the wrong way around every single time.
Okay. That's it.
But I'm not well, no, I must be.
Well, no, I mean, it's that word blindness thing that letters just sort of move around, and I find sometimes I've typed total rubbish, and even the computer can't pick up what I was actually trying to say. So I have to go back and rearrange the letters into something closer to the order that they're supposed to be in, so that the computer can find it.
With numbers. Just the last couple of years, I'll be like, oh, it's £342 instead of £432. Never usually, if I'm looking at the bank, I always get it the wrong way around.
It's always the wrong way around.
Yeah.
Or is it the bank?
Yeah. No, but that's weird. That it's just started for me. I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm 60. It's like, it's kind of normal-ish.
Ish.
Yeah, not a good sign, but acceptable tolerances.
Yeah.
So, what did you do before writing?
I was all sorts of things, but the biggest chunk of my life, I was actually a medical sales rep.
I was because you went from being a business side of things.
Yep.
Then you went to Portugal.
Then I went into public health for a while. And then I went to Portugal, ran a holiday complex there, and then went back, worked for another couple of years as a computer trainer. And then we retired here.
Oh, so you're retired?
Officially.
Right. Oh, no, it was...
I am pensionable, so...
Oh, right. I wouldn't have thought you were pensionable.
Yes. Old and grey.
Yeah, well, no, it's... So Portugal, you were saying it's very damp over there. What were you doing over there?
I was running a gîte complex for naturists. So we had about 10 cottages in the grounds of what used to be a small holding farm. And there was a pool and stuff, and just used to look after the guests there and keep them amused. And
that was, cap-tagged and all that sort of thing.
Not quite cap-tag, but...
Well, no, there's the cap-tag campsite, which is reasonable, and then there's the village, which is another thing, but...
No, we didn't have ladies wandering around in fur coats with two men on on leads. No, holidaymakers, sans clothes.
Yeah, that was, well...
No, but I say we had a lot of fun there. The guests were almost completely wonderful people. I mean, there were one or two that I wouldn't want to have had come back, and I don't think they wanted to come back, but, other than that...
You'll always get that in whatever.
Whatever you do. Yeah.
You've got a gîte here, haven't you?
Yes, we have.
Is that a smallish one or a biggish one?
It's a big room, but only for one couple at a time.
Right. Well, it's like we've got this. Yeah. Bedroom there, bathroom. And...
yeah, exactly the same layout. And so we have people to come and stay. Last summer we were booked solid from first week in June right the way through till the 1st of October without a break.
It's the no break I don't like the sound of. Yeah.
And that's why we're not doing it quite the same this year.
No.
Yeah. And that was the problem last year, is we had an awful lot of carry forwards from the COVID years. People have said, we can't come this year. Can we rebook? And we said, because we're nice people, we said yes.
Cool. Yeah.
And so we had a load of roll forwards and it filled the year. This year we're insisting on gaps between.
Yeah. Yeah, and we're going to do a minimum 2 nights stay or whatever. Otherwise, you just are ironing for a living.
Oh,
it's like...
we've been very lucky, apart from one couple who come every year. Most people are a week plus.
Yeah, a week is cool. Yeah.
We like weeks.
But so Jeet's writing. How many books you done?
63, I think.
That's more than I thought. The thing I read, I think it was like 10 or 12. An old biog on something.
Somewhere. Yeah.
Is it kind of printed to order, or is it?
It's all print to order stuff, or in electronic format. Generally, most of it's exclusive to Amazon, but one or two of the bits have gone other places as well.
You've just had a book coming out?
Had one 3-4 weeks ago.
That's right, because that's when we were going to do the podcast before. That was going to be like a month later. And
book called The Madison Interview.
Which is about...
No, it's not about what we're doing now.
It's about podcasts.
It's about a young woman who does very well at school and gets a scholarship to do journalism at university. Meanwhile, the son of the family, who she meets just before she goes to university, disappears. Totally vanishes without trace somewhere in the South Pacific. They find him 5 years later, and he's a bit of a recluse now as a result of being shut away all this time, but he promises to give his story to one journalist. So you can guess who the journalist was, and from there it turns into a nice little romance.
Oh, right, and that's on Amazon now.
It's on Amazon now, yes.
Oh, right.
More than a year, 18 months ago.
Oh, no, it was the summer of 71 was the one you gave me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which I really enjoyed reading, but I'm not a reader.
No.
So I got kind of halfway through it, and then we went away for a weekend.
And you put it down somewhere and you can't remember where you put it?
No. It's actually still next to my bed.
No.
But because we went away, I lost the plot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to go back quarter of a book.
Yeah.
To recatch up
who's who and
what was happening. And so what gives you inspiration for the next one or whatever?
Well, if you go back to sort of where I started from, which was as a medical rep, I'd pull up outside a doctor's surgery or a nurse's base with the car radio on, listening to Radio 4. It'd be the player for the day or one of the books being read.
Mm.
And it'd be a case of, do I sit in the car here and listen to the end of the story, or do I get out and go and do some work? So sometimes I would get out and do some work and not get the end of the story. And stuck on the M25, heading home after a day's work, it would be a case of, wonder what the end of that story was. And I would write the ends of stories. And I had a whole collection of ends, and so when we came here and had time, I started writing the beginnings to them as well.
Well, that's quite an interesting way of doing it. But now everything's online, so it's kind of... You wouldn't naturally fall into that kind of do the end of the story. You just rewind or whatever. Yeah,
I don't actually do that very often. I don't do much online reading and writing, reading and listening and watching. I now spend a lot of the time actually just writing or reading, but I don't do...
The mix of the two.
I don't do the online version of them.
Right.
So, let's say it was Radio 4 would be on in the car, and I would be listening to bits and pieces that went round, and that would be the end of it. You'd never get it again.
And that is how life has changed.
Yeah.
You don't... Just the little things like that change your perception on...
That's it. I mean, I'd have had to have a DVD with somebody like Stephen Fry reading the story and put it in the CD player in the car to actually do an audiobook. Of course, things have changed a lot since then.
But audio... I would really get on with audiobooks. Why don't you have an audiobook version of your books?
Expense.
Really?
You have to employ somebody with a decent voice to read it. To read a book the size of Summer 71, it would probably take 10 days. So you're paying an actor 10 days' wages plus studio time. It builds up very, very quickly.
You could do it almost like a podcast.
You could do it as a podcast.
In chapters?
In chapters, and each chapter, like that.
And why not your voice? Why would...
Because I croak, I husk.
But isn't that part... Could that be part of it?
That could be part of it, but normally people would want to listen to...
Stephen Fry
or somebody with a professional voice. The first chapter of my first book does exist in audio format. I got my nephew, who is training to be an actor, to read that bit. He's promised to do the rest of it, but life's got in the way.
That's the usual. It's just, for me, it's like, you get in the car, you stick in a CD or whatever, or I listen to podcasts when I'm here working. I would happily listen to a book.
Yeah. But I tend to listen to music because music was my first love, and it'll be my love. Sorry.
I was coming right through. Was it Barry Manilow or who was it?
John Miles died about a year ago. I remember it. No, I tend to have music on all the time when I'm driving, when I'm writing, when I'm cooking, whatever. And in the car, it's the iPod on shuffle.
Yeah,
I've got 8 days' worth of music on the thing, so that's fine. And when I'm at home, I listen to Radio Caroline a lot.
Is that still going?
It's still going. Yeah,
because there was some anniversary. Was it last year or the year? It's like 50 years of Radio Caroline.
It was 50 years of Radio 1, I think. 60. No, can't.
It was a John Peel.
Yeah, Caroline started back in 64. So you can work out.
I was 1 year old, so okay, maybe it was it was some other anniversary, but it was something. Yeah, that was the boat, wasn't it? It was Radio Caroline.
Yeah.
That's I know it was, or maybe they were.
They've still got a boat, and this weekend they're transmitting from the boat, broadcasting from the boat. They sort of one weekend every month they go out to the boat. That's a historic monument, and actually run programmes from there rather than from studios around the country, beaming them into the centre and then transmitting them.
I'm surprised they still bother transmitting them, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But
you get the advantage of of somebody that you can actually send them an email and say, "I really enjoyed that song. Will you play it again?"
Yeah,
and you get that live interaction with the DJ as well as listening to good music.
I will have to check it out actually.
Yeah. Just say to Alexa, play Radio Caroline.
I don't have an Alexa. I don't want a...
Oh, we got one of those.
I turn off everything on my telephone. Mm. The camera on my computer's got a bit of scotch tape over the front of it. Yeah. And other than our Google searches for whatever, and then suddenly we're getting advertising for jacuzzis. Yeah. But that's enough an invasion in my life that to have
I find we don't get anything out of Alexa at the moment.
Can't you ask it? interesting questions.
You can ask it interesting questions, but we don't. We use it basically as a internet radio.
Right, well, our TV does that. So that's probably got a microphone on it as well, hidden away somewhere.
Yeah. And probably costs a lot more because the screen comes on.
Yes, I tried rewiring it, so we just have to have the
sound.
No, the box on.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi box or whatever it's called. But it wasn't doing it.
Yeah.
But it goes through, by the time it's gone through a sound bar and all, and then it goes to the TV. We used to be able to turn it off, and then we used the sound bar for a party.
Yeah.
And then when I plugged it back in, now the TV's got to be on. So I've obviously...
Somewhere.
It's just a matter of switching two plugs, so it goes straight to the soundbar and onto the TV, and it's working. So it's like
in essence, that's what we're using Alexa for. She sits on the end of the Wi-Fi and transmits to the soundbar, and that's it. So the television.
But it listens to everything you say.
Turn the microphone off. If you're that worried.
Well, that's what I was going.
There is an off button on the microphone.
Yeah, because if you're talking business or whatever, you don't want the FBI or whoever it is.
I like the FBI listening to me. They get confused.
Wasting
I
their
talk
time.
rubbish.
No, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's just that, you never know.
You never know who's listening.
And what can be taken out of context and whatever else is.
So it's one of the short stories. It's on the back there. It's I changed the title of it.
Short stories, rags to riches.
Up at the bottom.
New laws.
Yeah, new laws. Basically, that one is set sometime in the future. And a guy has a knock on the door first thing in the morning, and it's the secret police there to arrest him. They won't tell him what he's been arrested for. Eventually, after being confined for a period of time and subject to various mental tortures, he discovers that it's because he was a member of the Manchester United fan club. And the Manchester United fan club were involved in some anti-government riots a few years earlier. So they were now a proscribed organisation. And his former membership of a proscribed organisation came up. So they pulled him in.
And that idea wasn't Radio 4.
It wasn't Radio 4, no.
But you're a football fan?
No. I'm a Gillingham supporter.
Oh, right.
This is something different.
You post results.
Oh, yeah.
There's a few of my friends on Facebook, and it's like, 2-1 today, not bad. And I'm like, 2-1 in what? And it's just like Middlesbrough versus something or whatever.
Yeah. No, that's it. I don't admit to being a Gillingham supporter too publicly, but I am.
I couldn't even point. Gillingham was North London? No.
It's the only league club in Kent.
South East then, right?
South East London, yeah.
Right. I kind of know the name, but I couldn't. I was thinking it was by Hemel Hempstead or somewhere up the north, but it's down the south.
A friend of mine went to university in Leeds.
That's further north.
Further north, but his tutor said to him on his first day meeting thing, "So whereabouts is Gillingham?" And he said, "Halfway down Division 3." Which is about right at the time.
Yeah. Well, I went to school in Hereford, so if I'd supported Hereford, they were Division 3 as well. And then they went to Division 1, and now I think they're probably back in Division 3 or whatever.
They may even be out, I'm not sure.
I wouldn't know. I don't follow. No. I followed Spurs for some bizarre... Because our neighbour's son was 3 years older than me, so I supported the same team as him. Because it was easier than getting into a fight with him.
Yeah.
But I don't actually like football. Brazilian football, another ballpark. But, so what do you think of Kuwait? No, not Kuwait. What's it called? Qatar at the moment, yes.
I'm part of the Boycott Qatar campaign.
Good.
The abuse of human rights has gone on during the building of the stadiums and of the population in general. No.
And the LGBT doodads.
Exactly, the whole gamut of it.
Good. No, it's because everyone I have spoken to and mentioned it, they're just like, nope.
Yeah.
Won't watch again.
No.
Might watch the final.
I might watch the final if England are in it. Or Wales.
I liked the Prince of Wales was asked, well, who are you going to support, England or Wales? And he said, ask me that at the final.
Yeah. Best idea.
Yeah. So he avoided the question very well, I thought, for a prince, because he can't, he's got to say Wales, but he's English, so it's like, well, that's a professional answer for you. But yeah, I'll watch it. If Wales gets the final, I'll watch the final.
Yeah, precisely.
England, I wouldn't bother. Or maybe if I had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And everyone was like mad, and they built up some kind of thing for it, but I wouldn't bother personally. No. It's almost like it's been, the few I've watched, it's like it's orchestrated like a boxing match. Oh, you'll go down in the 45 minute.
Yeah.
And it's like,
it's getting like professional wrestling used to be.
That's right, Mick McMahon.
All that lot, yeah.
It's like, you're going to tumble me in this one, and then I'll do that, and then, you'll clock me around the head. And it's, oh God, the amount of money that people spend.
Yeah.
Slavishly following a team that's completely cooked up out of sponsorship and Russian oligarchs and stuff.
It's just like American football.
I don't know, never watched it.
No, that one.
Other than they all die at 40 odd.
Yeah, they all die at 40 odd from multiple concussions, but the whole thing is run by businesses. Did you ever see the film Rollerball?
Not Ryan O'Neill. Who was?
Yeah, but you know what I mean. He's
the lead
died recently. Another one. Keep talking about people who died.
That happens at our age.
Happens at our age, yeah. But and they sort of had the game, and it was all about killing each other. In the end, they were all.
It was like a roulette. Round thing on roller skates, wasn't it?
American football is rollerball without motorbikes.
Oh yes, it had motorbikes in it. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah, because they were on roller skates or motorbikes, weren't they? Yeah.
Strange film.
It was quite a good film back in the day.
I'd have to watch it again.
Was it Death Race as well? That was a Charles Bronson?
Charles Bronson, yeah.
And all the films of that era, but in comparison to today's thing, it was more of an impact because it was new.
Yeah.
A brave new world.
And it was real people.
So what are your plans then as far as books go? You have the next one in the line?
I have 3 on the go at the moment. I always have more than one, so that if I get a block on one, I can move to another one while it clears.
Now, I can see that Miriam reads 3 books at a time. I don't understand how people can do that.
I struggle with that unless they're very different books.
I'll be like, well, it's medieval. How come they're flying around in F-14 jets?
Yeah,
or
I can cope with that.
Oh, right, okay.
It's if that one's medieval and that one's pre-Victorian, and they're very, very close, and you start thinking, now was that my liege because he's off to fight in the Crusades?
Yeah.
Or is it my liege because she's in love with a man from the class above?
No,
that would get too complicated, but
it would be like watching 3 films at the same time for me.
Yeah,
and watching 10 minutes of each, and
that
would be it would do my head in.
Yeah. I would struggle to watch 3 films at once. The thing is that one of the books will be blocked. I really can't think of a way out of where they are at that moment.
What you've written.
So I just set it aside and try not to think about it at all, and just move on to sort of might only be sort of 4 lines of a description to start with, but sort of build up dialogue and get the story going. And sometimes that one just takes over and flows all the way through, and you've still got that one blocked in the background. Or if that one gets blocked, there's another one. But by the time you've written a little bit of the you'll be back on the first one because you've worked out how to get around it.
Did you find that stressful, or is it just a natural progress?
It's just a natural progress.
Or someone says something in town, and you're like, oh, maybe they could have a car accident, or whatever it might be. Or,
I can build towards.
So you don't have the whole plot?
No, I don't. There are 2 types of writers. There are plotters who have the plot, beginning, middle, end, all worked out.
And it's filling in the details.
Filling in the details.
Yeah.
We get people like me who are pantsers, as they call them. We write by the seats of our pants.
Oh, they're called pantsers.
That's what they're known as in writing circles. Plotters or pantsers. Yes, we're pantsers. And so if you start off with a story and the characters more or less take over.
Right. But you've got such an open field. I can't imagine how you cut it down to... Or is it like a butterfly effect that someone drops a cup? So then...
Yeah. 10 minutes later, the main character walks into the room and treads on the broken shards. Cuts his foot and has to go to hospital, where he meets...
his lover for the next 40 years.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, yes, I can see how both of those could work. Mm. But I don't know, Stephen King or someone like that, I can imagine he would have... Is he a plotter? I
believe
assume.
He was a plotter, yes.
Yeah, because I haven't read any of his books for 30 years probably, but with the state of mind he was in, he must have had it all in his head.
Must have done. But then again, so as I say, I do everything by the seat of my pants. The story that literally came unblocked day before yesterday and is now going forward to the main one I'm working on, actually weaves in and out of an earlier series of books. So it picks up things that the characters had said in the earlier series and puts them into conversations in the modern one. So actually you can get quite a lot going through, and often you find these little serendipitous things that you wrote into the original story. Like
someone's Uncle John from so-and-so that...
Yeah, or the phone rang and the character went to answer it. Who was that on the phone? Oh, just a friend. But you can then put the conversation between that character and your new character in on the phone.
Yeah, I really should read. It's
you can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, taking it apart. I find I read the words, but I can't imagine the characters.
No.
Where if it's an audio book or something, like a play or whatever on the radio, I can give them faces and...
a certain amount of that is down to the skill of the narrator, in that he'll give the characters slightly different voices. They'll all be within his voice, but they'll be sort of, "Oh," said Pooh, "I'm feeling a little bit sad." "Oh, are you really?" said Piglet. And all of a sudden, you've got that distinction that starts creating an image of Pooh that's big and round and Piglet who's quite small and skinny.
Yeah. When you can hear the audio, but when I read it...
You don't get that.
I read the words, and the words go in, and I'm just like, and I'll follow the story, but I won't be imagining the smoke running down the river or the screech of the car tyres or the... No. And it's a shame.
It's a shame. Yeah, it is.
Or Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I've never read it.
I've read it. Read them all. But I think my mum was a school teacher. She took the classic route out of Wales by becoming a teacher and going and teaching English in England. So she would read to me and encourage me to read. And I was probably one of the last of the radio generation children. I would listen with mother.
And we would watch...
You'd watch with
on
mother.
The TV.
Yeah, on the TV.
Because I'm 60 in February. So it was...
6 years.
What, the Flower Pot Men?
Yeah. I watched all those.
Dougal. Yeah. Was it Magic Roundabout?
Magic Roundabout, yeah. Andy Pandy.
What was the weird thing about Magic Roundabout that came up the other week?
Probably
it was French.
It was French, yes. It was entirely French.
It was. I didn't know it was French.
Eric Thompson wrote new stories to fit the pictures and put the voices in.
Yes, completely unrelated.
Completely unrelated, just the pictures carry forwards.
So, because, I had this conversation with Miriam, because I was sure it was English, because it was like Dylan the Stoned Rabbit and Dougal the Dog and Zebedee, and it was all very drug-orientated if you watch them now. But in French, they were completely innocent stories with no innuendos.
Yeah. Which is very, very different.
I also listened to the French versions because now I could understand the French.
many years ago, driving up from Bordeaux back to the Channel Ports after a family holiday. And we stopped in a Formula One, which shows how long ago it was.
I was going to say that they existed in those days as well.
They were fairly new in those days. But there was television on, and I came across Hello, Hello in French.
Really?
And I couldn't understand the French well enough at that stage to know what was going on particularly, but it was the cast of Hello, Hello, and it was in French. I was always puzzled.
Did they have English accents?
I wouldn't have been able to tell a
Frenchman
speaking with an English accent from a Frenchman speaking with a German accent. And that was what really confused me about this. How on earth did they do the English policeman in French?
Oh, the French policeman. Hello, you have a problem. That's what I was asking if you had an English.
And I saw these two tats pissing against the lamppost. And you just think, well, how did that work when they translated it into French?
And then give him an English accent. Then it would be.
Yeah, I don't.
It was hilarious series, though.
Yeah.
Not politically correct now, but it gives a damn. It's like, it was all good fun. It wasn't nasty against the Germans or the French. It was just stereotypes.
Yeah.
As the English were stereotypes.
They stereotype themselves, yeah.
Yeah.
I say, chaps.
Yeah, but the pilots.
I will say this once and only once. So listen up carefully, chaps.
Well, all fighter pilots spoke like that, I thought.
In 1939, they probably did. By the time we got to 1941, most of them were ex-secondary modern school boys.
I was going to say Scousers or whoever was left, basically, who would do the job.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
So, hello, hello. That takes me back quite a bit. So you've done your holiday homes.
Mm-hmm.
You're happy here?
Very. Loving the life in France.
I was going to say, how long have you been here then?
We've now been here, came in 2015, so it's just over 7 years.
Relatively recent,
but long enough to know that we want to stay here.
Right. I was just going to say, was it like a shock move or was it
It was an inevitable move. I mean, we were going to move to Portugal. But
that's where you were before?
Yeah. That was back in 2010, 11, 12. And
then you went back to the UK?
Then I went back to the UK because we couldn't find the right place to live in Portugal. Either the house was in the wrong place, middle of town or something, or it had damp and was falling down. It just couldn't find the right combination. So we gave up, went back to England, started work. And then one day we were on a plane going I think we were going to America to see my son. And I found this advert in the back of one of the papers for a hammo in Brittany. 4 or 5 houses, a bar, swimming pool, tennis court, but some ridiculously cheap price. And we thought, we can go for that. Mm-hmm. So when we came back from the States 3 weeks later, she phoned up the estate agent. Oh no, that's gone. But we've got lots of others, come and see. And we foolishly thought, well, we might not be able to speak Portuguese, but we've done French at school. Big mistake, but there we are. So we started looking in Brittany and found some nice houses in Brittany. Then we remembered that the weather in Brittany was the same as it is in Cornwall.
Yeah.
We looked further south. And via a slightly circuitous route, we ended up in the region here. And while we were looking, the house we were in just kept popping up every time we did an internet search. And we kept saying, no, we won't go there, too close to the road.
You are right on the corner, aren't you?
Right on the corner of the road, yeah. So we didn't. And about 4 months later, we came out for our final search for the year. And I said, we'll have to go and see that place, just so that we can say for definite, we're not interested, we can cross it right off this. So we went and we sat on the terrace and we drank rosé wine in the sunshine, looking at the beautiful hills that surround the place. And the fact there were no cars on the road. There are only 700 people live up the road beyond us.
But the lorries with the wood coming down
Well, we didn't come across them.
No, I was going to say.
And
I
we fell in
remember
love.
living on that
Yeah.
road, and it was.
And it was, beautiful. We moved in, and it's still very quiet, and there aren't as many log lorries as there used to be either at the moment.
No, because we hear them here, taking your corner, basically, and it's don't hear them as much. Do you hear the V8? Who's the guy with the V8?
I can't remember his name, but
The guy who runs the computer shop.
Yeah,
I think there's his, and then there's a guy who runs a.
There's the rally driver that races up and down, practicing for doing his rallies. That apparently he's quite successful in.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'll be a little 4-cylinder that we also hear then.
No, that's a big Capri-sized thing with big growly engine in it.
Oh, right, okay.
I think it's Christian you're thinking of. Used to run the computer shop over in Rio. Yeah.
Yeah, hasn't he? He used to have a V8.
He's got a Freelander.
Okay,
And,
so it's not him
a
then.
couple of off-roadies, quad bikes,
Right.
but no big V8.
And there's another guy who's got a shop in Carcassonne of sport car parts, and he drives like a huge Trans Am.
Yeah, that's probably him.
Pontiac thing,
Yeah.
but I don't think he doesn't look like a rally driver.
Apparently he does rallies and roars around the place, so
All right.
I don't know.
He's the only guy, except myself, I've ever seen in the bar in a kilt.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a kilt. It just had some pleats at the front, and it was a skirt with some pleats at the front.
Oh.
And it was just like, but he was kind of a solid rugby-looking.
Scotsman type.
Yes, he looked shape of a Scotsman. Yeah. And he's a rally driver.
Yeah.
Oh, that's quite interesting.
I mean, I don't think he's a professional rally driver, but so he is a successful amateur.
Right, yeah, Miriam kind of knew of him via this shop in Carcassonne on the prefecture or whatever. And
we finally got to stop at Oradour on our last trip to England.
where's Oradour?
Oh, you're seriously missing out. You must visit Oradour. It's up near Limoux.
Well, it's kind of west of us.
Not Limoux, sorry, the other one. Blood begins with an L. Up the A20. Limoges. That's why I was getting confused.
Limoux is 50 kilometres away. Limoges is 300. Yeah.
But yeah, it's up near there. And it's a village that in 1944, on the 7th or 8th of June, the Germans just drove into.
And killed everyone.
Killed everybody, razed the place to the ground, and went away.
I've heard about it. People have been there and they say it's really spooky.
It's really spooky. It's really... We were there first thing in the morning, virtually before anybody else had arrived. So it was very quiet, very hushed. And very awe-inspiring in a negative sort of way.
There'll be lots of those in the Ukraine.
There's still cars burnt out where they were in the street outside the pharmacy. The doctor's cars there. You look in other garageways and they're burnt out cars. And one of the things that sort of struck well was that everyone seemed to have a sewing machine. No, that it must have been one of the things that survived the fire, more or less. People who cleared the site stuck the sewing machine that they'd found in there at the front, so that everybody coming around behind them would know that this building has been cleared.
Right.
I'm fairly certain that must be it, because there are too many
in the front window.
Too many. Well, just behind the front wall, where the front wall has collapsed to, because they didn't just kill the population; they razed the town.
But everybody did have a sewing machine in those days.
Everybody had a sewing machine, but why are they all nice
out front,
proudly presented? And I reckon that's probably what it was. So they sort of
it was a signal.
This is a signal. We'll put the sewing machine in when we've cleared the building.
Plus, they were all made in cast iron in those days, so
that's it. So it survived. Yeah,
they would stay there. They got no moving. Well, no plasticky bits.
No plasticky bits, but they were solid enough to actually survive. Having been burnt and
our sewing machines wouldn't last. They're rubbish.
It's just one of those strange things, and sort of it must have been a fairly affluent village.
And what's the name of the village again?
Orador. Sud Lane. It was, I say, memory-creating day.
Depressing, but kind of stirring and fairly appropriate with the world
what's going on in Ukraine. Yeah,
because they will have done the same.
Yeah,
or in 10 years' time there'll still be people losing legs from mines that have been
thrown around the place. Yeah,
planted everywhere, which will be pretty horrific. But that's what sort of happens as well. They might be Russians by then. We never know.
That's it. You don't know.
It's good to see another Englishman with a man bag.
Yeah. It's quite rare, but I found it very useful when I switched from wearing glasses to wearing contact lenses. Got myself my first man bag then. Went to a shop in Canterbury and bought it. I used to carry around the little pots of lens solution and the spare wind up and my glasses for when the lenses got too dry.
Yeah.
So I all packed in my man bag. Put some money in, packet of fags.
Well, it's tobacco, telephone, keys.
Yeah.
It's too much for your jeans.
Yeah.
Or I've got the wrong shaped bum and my jeans just fall down.
Yeah.
In winter I can go without because you've got a coat that you can stuff all your bits in. But in summer, man bags are the way to go.
Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, pop. If it was pop.
Yeah, I missed David Bowie, but all the other names, I saw Lou Reed at Charlton. I finally saw Dylan last Saturday.
I was going to say, you said it was interesting.
It was interesting, yeah. I mean, he played a set that was largely from his latest LP, and so I didn't actually know any of the songs particularly. I only did two of the classics, Gotta Serve Somebody and can't remember the other one.
Mr. Tambourine Man.
It wasn't Mr. Tambourine. Actually, he didn't do Mr. Tambourine Man.
Right, okay.
He didn't do Knocking on Heaven's Door. He didn't
or Tangled Up in Blue. Or
no, it was, as I say, he did two of the old songs. He did a cover of That Old Black Magic. Mm-hmm. And the rest of it was modern stuff, most of it off the last two LPs, I think.
And what's his modern stuff like? Or is it just...
It's
same as the old
same
stuff.
As the old stuff, but with different words. And
right, no. I was wondering if he changed it. He'd gone jazz or he'd gone...
It was a little bit bluesier than I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sort of... If I was writing a review, I'd have mentioned the Bob Dylan Blues Band.
Right. Well, no, that was curious because I'll have to check it out because I used to really like Dylan and then he went into all his religious kind of thing and I was like, no. And it was before, and then afterwards he did some really weird things, and I was just he's lost the plot. But if he's back online,
he's back online, I think, and
he's got to be mid-80s now.
I think he's 81. Not as old as we thought he was, but
like Keith Richards. There was a picture of Keith Richards and his two daughters, and it's like, oh, it's really good to know that he'll be inheriting everything that they make in their lives because he seems to be outliving everyone. It'll be...
Well, there's a picture of a younger Keith Richard sat on a bench with three young boys, long hair around him. And these are 7-8-year-olds with long hair and stuff. And the caption is, Keith Richard waiting for the rest of the band to grow up.
How he's still going, I have no idea at all.
No.
Outrageous. No. But he can hardly play guitar anymore, which is a real shame.
They were pretty good last time I saw them.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Wembley, year before COVID, perhaps? No, it wasn't Wembley, it was at Olympic Stadium.
I wouldn't know one. That's the O2.
No, it's the Olympic Stadium, where they had the running races and all that sort of stuff for the London Olympics.
Okay. Yeah. I have been back so rarely. I haven't followed what's been going on for 20 years. When I go back, it's like, what happened?
They built something there.
Yeah, well, the Cornichon wasn't even there when...
No. The Ann Summers building has a group of us used to refer to it as being.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because it does look like a massive... Yeah. No, the big wheel was there before I left.
Yeah.
No, it's... And then there were loads of bombings and stuff, and all the city of London was locked down.
They had the Olympics in 2020, whenever it was, and they built a big sports park. And the central stadium, they took the top couple of levels off to make it a manageable size. And
that's not where Wembley used to be.
No, it's out east, Stratford.
Out in Stratford.
Yeah.
So it's not the O2 Centre, which is that area as well.
Well, O2 is south of the river. This is north and around just a little bit.
Around just a little. Oh, right.
Yeah. If you follow the M11 up, you go more or less past it.
Well, I've come in on that way. I've always been too knackered because...
Yeah. Now, it's the Olympic Park and big shopping centre, which I've stayed away from. I hate shopping centres, but they are.
Why?
Oh, because they're all about money and
consumerism.
Consumerism and fast fashion and stuff like that, which I heartily disapprove of.
We live here. Fashion stops at the airport.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
If it gets on the plane at all.
Yeah.
And of course I don't wear that much anyway.
No, out in public. It's like I was just like, oh God, do I just stay in a kilt as I am you? Here I just live in a kilt.
Yeah.
Well, the winter, it'll be my second winter in a kilt, and it's kind of, it does get a bit nippy. But we've got too many neighbours to wander around naked all the time.
We're very lucky. We can't see our neighbours.
Right, yeah, we've got one house up there. We've got them there. So you'd be like, oh, yeah, we're fine in the pool. But they can see us if they walk along the lane. Yeah. If you're in the pool, it's like, who gives a damn? But
they might. And that's the trouble.
Well, no, if we're in the pool, they can't see.
Well, you don't give a damn anyway, but
but
they might.
If they see us, they don't know if we've got something on or not. But we can't sit at the table and eat.
No. I have my plausible deniability shorts.
Oh, right, okay.
They are pretty well flesh-coloured. And if anybody ever complains that they've seen me from the top of the hills looking down, are you sure I wasn't wearing these shorts?
Cycling shorts in skin colour or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Have to try that one. Yeah. No, we're too close. We're
too close,
30 metres is a bit...
It's a bit. That's if they give a damn.
They always just like, hello. They try not to look because we could just plant a little doodah, but because it would stop the dust because they drive past and all the dust goes in the pool. We did plant some things. There were some little trees that Miriam liked, little red berries. I think they lived about a month because we watered them every day for a month and then went away for the weekend and
they died.
Yeah, they all died except one. Maybe there's one up there now or not, but probably not. The naturism thing is we're in the centre of it globally, I think. Well, Western world side of it is or European side of it, we're in the biggest, in the thick of it here.
Yeah, I think so. But it's nice and be able to just sort of not worry where we are.
Yeah, but naturism as well is nice because you don't judge people the same.
No. Once you've got the wristwatch off somebody and their clothes,
men especially,
you just cannot tell
whether they're bank managers,
tycoons, or bricklayers almost.
Yeah, which is a nice
thing, and you get treated as being the same rather than he hasn't got a Rolex.
I've got to lose my belly before I can go back naturism. For me, not for anyone else. My own head won't cope with my belly swinging around everywhere. I've been skinny all my life. Until just before COVID. I'd put on a kilo or two. And then we had the first lockdown.
Yeah.
And then Miriam was locked in the house, and we'd never spent a huge amount of time since we were married together.
Yeah.
We were like, how's this going to pan out? And we've never had such a good time.
No.
And we cooked every day. We ate and drank and laughed.
And then ate some more.
She lost weight, and I gained weight. It crept across the mattress at night, I'm sure. I gained 7 kilos, and she lost 7 kilos. And she goes, well, why am I losing it? I'm eating like a horse.
Yeah, but you're not eating at work.
And it was stuff that we'd cooked, and she was into making bread as everybody else on the planet was probably.
I didn't get into it. I made the conscious decision that this was my excuse for being out.
When you say being out?
Well, you know, we were already allowed the kilometre.
Yeah.
Our kilometre ran out at the cerisier. And if we went up the road, it ran out just before we reached Pascal and Christian's place. There's not a single turning off that road. So we could walk a kilometre up the road, we could walk a kilometre down the road.
And the cerisier, what cerisier? Not the hotel?
Yeah, the hotel.
That's not a kilometre from yours?
It is.
Really?
Yeah. And that was the end of the kilometre.
Wow, I would have thought that was like 500 yards-ish.
That's double it.
Well,
So my daily mission was to walk to the cerisier with Val. She'd sit down and I would take my permis to go shopping and walk down to the boulangerie. Buy the bread and walk back.
And then it's like, oh, Vival. I've got to walk to Vival and back.
Yeah, so I had that extension on the end of the kilometres walk.
Yeah, we could have done the dog walking bit, but our dogs are worn out by the time they've done about 50 yards.
Yeah.
But they're old. No, we stayed in the house. I don't think we actually did any walking except the boulangerie. Or the spa. And that was in a car. And we just sat around, ate and talked.
Yeah, I managed to lose weight because I was doing the extra walking rather than going in the car.
I was just going to say...
and I wrote a hell of a lot.
I was going to say, it must have been a godsend. Well, not a godsend, but...
Well, no, because it didn't really make that much difference. Yeah.
But you had no guests.
Had no guests, so it extended the writing season a bit. But, yeah, I just sat there and wrote uninterrupted. You know, sort of, yes, I mean, sort of, there wasn't the distraction of you losing the entire Wednesday afternoon because...
You've had your lunch.
Had the lunch and what goes with lunch.
Yeah, and all the alcohol that goes with that.
So we weren't losing that time. But other than that, from the writing point of view, it's very similar. But it did inspire at least one story.
That's not bad.
No.
Oh, well, in the first lockdown or?
During the first lockdown, I wrote a thing called The Day Before Last, which is a post-viral infection story.
I was going to say apocalyptic.
Yeah. Except by the time I'd done it, we were coming to the end of the first lockdown. It was obviously becoming the end of it. And not everybody had died from it. So it's about the next virus that arrives.
The next one's round the corner.
Yeah. Of course it is. The one that proves that COVID was just a pussycat.
Well, yeah. Or whether the next one's stronger or weaker.
Yeah.
They got no idea.
No. And Ebola's still rumbling around.
Yeah. No, it's kind of weird how fragile, I'd say, the whole of humanity, just on a protein.
Yeah.
Just a misshaped protein and screwed.
And that's what the virus does in the second one.
Oh.
In the book, the virus actually causes, is a prion, causes changes in the brain and that aren't immediately lethal, but...
What was... we get the crickets that go in the pool and drown themselves and the worm comes out.
Yeah.
Oh, that is just horrific. The parasitic
Worms, yeah.
Doodah. But all that kind of virus, not killing people, but they become zombies or the vampires or whatever it is
Pretty
such...
dire. And it gives you tremendous scope.
I know, that's what I mean.
But to get, once you get something running, you can sort of, and then that happened, and then that.
And then it's like, you can't wrap it up.
No.
Unless it's the end of the world kind of thing.
If you want to read something, I've got one with me.
I can try.
I think it's with me. Double check. That one.
After the event.
Yes.
And there's an asteroid on the way as well.
Yep.
That I read about last week.
Yeah. Well, that one misses just.
But that's what the virus comes from? Or
No, there is no virus. It just causes the Earth to...
go off its kilter or whatever.
Yeah. Which wipes out most of the population of the world.
I do like the way you have large text. Because it makes it so much easier to read. Not in poor light.
Yeah.
Because just before bed I can go, okay, I can skip back 2 pages, get back in the gist of it.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't... Well, the next time I go away for a weekend, I will take the book with me. Because that's what broke my...
Yeah. And tell Miriam to drive and you can sit in the passenger seat and read.
No, it's the camping car.
Yeah. She doesn't drive it?
I think she moved it a couple of metres up the drive.
Yeah.
Just went, that's enough, okay. And I was just like, what happens if I twist my ankle? It's only a big car.
Yeah.
And it's like, but it's too expensive to hit anything. I said, I've hit things with it. You try to avoid it.
Yeah. See, you don't go out to hit things.
Well, it depends.
Yeah. I never go out to hit things quite.
Yeah. No,
it's one of the tactics for when we go back to Britain or on any longer drive. When it's Val's turn to drive, I read.
All right, I sleep.
I read. Simply because I never sleep when I'm travelling, but I'm sat there reading, I've got my head down, I'm not going, pull out now and overtake.
Yeah. Well,
don't get too close because then you'll slow down and then you won't be able to pull out and overtake. I got to drive on when I was doing public health. It's a weird story. We decided to set up this service for getting people with COPD, the smoking-related disease, in and doing their oxygen sats, prescribe and giving them a pack of emergency medication for when they went critical. And all the surgery said, yeah, it's fine, you can do it, except we've got no room for you. They came up with this brilliant idea because it was autumn into winter. Phoned up a couple of the camping car hiring companies. One of them said, yeah, we've got something you can have. It'll only be, a quarter of the price that you'd pay in the summer, so paying £120 a week for it. And we used to drive this around, park it in the doctor's car parks and run the clinic out in the van.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
But the NHS does that all the time now.
Yeah.
With those big wagons, have your blood tested or
blood tested.
giving blood or whatever else.
The giving blood thing was always, but...
That was a lorry.
The testing things, they followed us on.
And did it work?
It did work, yeah. And we actually got good clinical results out of it as well.
Oh, fantastic.
Fewer people admitted to hospital and, nearly half the number admitted to hospital over that winter compared with the previous one.
Well, we ended up going very much off topic after that, so I've sort of cut it a bit short, and it's more than long enough, well, too long if anything. So thank you very much to Ted Bun, and this was obviously recorded before World Cup and various other things that have gone on through. If you made it this far, thank you very much for tolerating us, and there will be another one coming out whenever I get the chance. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.